All right, let's dive into this. You've given us a ton of material on the Philippine Judiciary's plan for the future, the SPJI, or Strategic Plan for Judicial Innovations. It's a lot. We know you want the full picture, but you also value your time. So we'll be your guides through this information mountain, focusing on what matters most to you.
It's a pretty fascinating overhaul they're attempting. Think of the SPJI as a total makeover of the Philippine court system, and not just a surface level one either. This plan digs deep. It examines how courts work, addresses support systems
Yeah.
for judges. It's all aimed at creating a justice system that's more efficient and, well, effective.
We're focusing specifically on outcome one, efficiency, in this deep dive. So how can Philippine courts become more like a well-oiled machine, serving people quickly and smoothly?
Yeah.
But before we get into the specifics, I'm curious about the why behind this push for efficiency. Is it just about speed, or is there something more fundamental at play?
It's definitely not just about speed for speed's sake. I mean, think about it. If cases drag on for years, people lose faith in the system. The SPJI acknowledges that justice delayed is justice denied, right? It's about upholding the rule of law and ensuring timely and fair justice for everyone involved.
So how does the SBJI plan to achieve this big efficiency makeover? What are the key strategies they're using?
Well, they're taking a multi-pronged approach, kind of like a three-pronged approach. First, they're looking at a complete organizational overhaul of the court system. Think reviewing staffing, streamlining processes, potentially even restructuring entire departments.
So it's not just about doing the same things faster, but really rethinking the structure itself.
Exactly. Make it more agile, responsive, the whole nine yards. They're also proposing something called process mapping. Basically, it's like creating a flowchart, a giant flowchart for every single process in the court system, then analyzing it for any bottlenecks or redundancies.
So like finding those traffic jams in the system and rerouting everything for a smoother flow.
Precisely. And the third piece of the puzzle is competency frameworks. This is all about making sure that every role in the court system has a clear definition, the skills, the knowledge needed.
So it's not just about filling positions, but about making sure the right people with the right skills are in the right place to make the system run as efficiently as possible.
That's the idea.
Makes sense. And speaking of making things run smoothly, there's a lot of emphasis on something called case flow management in the SPJI. What exactly does that entail?
Caseflow management is all about how cases move through the system from beginning to end. The goal is to make sure everything moves swiftly and without unnecessary delays.
And I'm guessing this is a key part of addressing the backlog issue that plagues the Philippine justice system.
Exactly. It's like a restaurant kitchen, right? If you have orders piling up, getting lost in the shuffle, the whole kitchen slows down. So effective case flow management is about ensuring those orders, or in this case, those cases are processed smoothly and efficiently, reducing those bottlenecks and those overall resolution times.
It's not just about individual cases moving faster. It's about making sure the whole system is operating smoothly to deliver justice efficiently.
Right, right. And the SPJI makes a point of recognizing that a well-functioning court system isn't just about rules and procedures. It's about the people, too. It's about the human element,
Yeah.
which is why their plan includes.
Oh, yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. They're emphasizing the importance of health and well-being, especially mental health support for judges and court personnel. It's not something you typically associate with legal reform, but it makes sense. The pressure and stress these individuals face daily are immense.
It's actually pretty refreshing to see them acknowledging that a healthy workforce, a supported workforce, is essential for a healthy justice system.
So it's not just a feel-good measure, it's a strategic one.
Yeah.
And beyond mental health, the plan also dives into performance management, taking a data-driven approach. I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical. Can you really quantify something as complex as a judge's performance?
It's a valid concern. Just crunching numbers could definitely overlook some crucial qualitative aspects of the job. However, the SPJI stresses that the aim isn't to punish. It's to use data to identify areas where individuals can improve, areas where the system can be made more efficient.
Okay, so it's less about reducing someone's performance to a single number and more about using data to illuminate areas for growth, and also to celebrate successes.
Yeah, absolutely. And to ensure the data is used fairly, they propose developing a standardized scorecard. This would mean that evaluations are calculated objectively based on specific metrics, not subjective opinions.
Interesting. So trying to strike that balance, recognizing the complexity of the work while bringing in some objective measures to the evaluation process.
Exactly. And to support growth, the SPJI really emphasizes training and education. We're talking about an upgrade to judicial education, focusing on practical skills, real-world applications, and ongoing professional development.
So it's not just about learning the law in a textbook. They're actually equipping judges and court personnel with the tools and skills they need to navigate the real-world complexities of the justice system.
That's the goal.
And speaking of navigating complexity, the SPJI also lays out a pretty bold vision for the future of technology in the courts. They're talking about everything from artificial intelligence to a completely revamped e-court system.
Yeah, this is where things get really exciting. Think about a future where AI assists with legal research, helps transcribe court proceedings, maybe even automate certain tasks to free up human resources. The potential for efficiency is immense.
Okay, now you've got my attention. AI in the courtroom. That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It might sound futuristic, but it's closer than you think. Imagine AI-powered research tools that can analyze mountains of case law and precedents in a fraction of the time. The potential for speed and accuracy is huge.
That would be revolutionary, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It could really streamline court proceedings and make legal research much more accurate. What else is on the tech agenda?
Well, they're proposing a major upgrade to the Judiciary e-library. This would be a one-stop shop for all legal resources, accessible online, anywhere with internet access.
So no more dusty law libraries and endless stacks of paper. That would be a game changer for legal professionals.
Absolutely. And imagine this e-library with built-in AI. Legal professionals could get deeper insights, a more nuanced understanding of the law.
It sounds like they're creating a truly modern, interconnected legal system. What else is in store?
They're also proposing online learning platforms for judges and court personnel. So more flexible and accessible professional development opportunities, learning at your own pace, on your own schedule.
So judges could essentially take courses from anywhere, update their skills without having to be physically present. That's amazing for accessibility.
It is. And the cherry on top, they're planning a complete overhaul of the current e-court system, calling it eCourt 2.0. It aims to streamline everything, from filing documents to managing case information.
Tell me more. This sounds like a massive undertaking. What kind of changes are they talking about?
One of the biggest changes would be the introduction of e-filing. So you can file all your court documents electronically.
That would save so much time and paper. It's a win-win.
Right. And for managing case information, they're proposing digital case files. Easier to organize, access, share information, and maybe the most intriguing idea, automated case assignment.
Automated case assignment. What does that mean exactly?
It means cases would be assigned to judges automatically, using predetermined criteria, algorithms. This could help eliminate any potential bias and ensure a fair distribution of work among the judges.
Wow, that's a pretty bold idea.
It is, but it's all about leveraging technology to make the system more efficient, more transparent, and ultimately more impartial.
It sounds like the SPJI is really going all in on technology to transform the Philippine judiciary. But I can't help but wonder, won't all this technology make the justice system less accessible to people who aren't tech-savvy? Maybe they don't have reliable internet access.
You're right, that's a valid concern, and it's something the SPJI needs to address carefully. Just implementing new technologies without considering digital equity could actually make things worse. It could widen the gap between those who have access and those who don't.
It could inadvertently create a two-tiered system.
Exactly. And we have to remember that the SPJI is still in its early stages. The real test will be how these changes are implemented. How do they ensure that the benefits of technology reach all Filipinos, regardless of background or circumstance?
It sounds like a delicate balancing act, pursuing efficiency while also ensuring accessibility and fairness.
It is, and that's what makes it so fascinating to analyze.
Well, we've covered a lot already, but we're just getting started. Let's take a closer look at how the SPJI aims to support those who keep the wheels of justice turning. The court personnel.
It's easy to get caught up in the big picture stuff, the technology, the restructuring. But the SPJI also dives into the details, like how to support the people who actually make the justice system run, the court personnel. It's about, creating an environment where they feel valued, empowered to do their best work.
But that makes sense. You can't expect people to be efficient, to be at their best, if they're burnt out and stressed. So what are some of the specific things the SPJI proposes to support these court personnel?
One of the most interesting things is their plan to create this more inclusive and responsive judiciary health and welfare program. And this isn't just for judges, it's for everyone. Clerks, security guards, everyone who works in the courts.
I'm glad they're not just focusing on the judges. After all, everyone who works in the courts plays a part in the system's success. But I have to ask, is it realistic to expect a system that's struggling with backlogs and efficiency issues to prioritize things like mental health and well-being? I mean, shouldn't those be addressed after the more urgent issues are fixed?
It might seem counterintuitive, but the SBJI actually argues that a healthy workforce is key to achieving those efficiency goals. A burnt-out employee isn't going to be productive or efficient. So by investing in well-being, they're investing in the long-term success of the whole system.
Okay, so it's a smart move, not just a feel-good initiative. What are some of the key elements of this health and welfare program?
Well, a big part of it is a socialized health insurance system for all court employees, so everyone has access to affordable health care, which is crucial for reducing financial stress, making sure people can get the care they need.
Absolutely. That's a huge step towards creating a more supportive work environment. And what about mental health specifically? We saw a lot in the material about mental health support for judges, but does that extend to other personnel as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The plan makes it clear that mental health support is for everyone. They're talking about establishing dedicated mental health units in every court, staffed with professionals who can provide support and counseling. They even want to launch a 24/7 mental health helpline.
Wow, a 247 helpline. That's really impressive.
hmm
It shows they understand that these challenges don't just disappear after work hours. Are there any preventative measures as well? Anything to proactively address mental health?
They've got that covered too. The SBJI proposes mandatory, free, or at least subsidized annual checkups, both physical and mental health checkups for all court employees.
That's great. It's a proactive approach, catching potential issues early on. It really seems like they're trying to foster a culture of preventive care. It's really refreshing to see. But okay, let's be honest. A happy workforce doesn't automatically translate into an efficient workforce. How does the SPJI address performance management and accountability?
You're right, it's not all about well-being programs. The SPJI also recognizes that accountability is essential for, driving excellence. So they're proposing a performance management system, one that's driven by data, using concrete metrics rather than subjective assessments.
I'm curious about how that would work in practice. I mean, how do you quantify something as complex and nuanced as a judge's performance, right? Wouldn't that risk overlooking important qualitative aspects of their job?
Right. And the SPJI does acknowledge that data needs to be used strategically, not blindly. So they're not talking about just reducing everything to numbers. The idea is to use data to, track progress, identify areas for improvement, things like time taken for case resolution or the number of cases handled, but then also incorporate qualitative feedback as well.
So it's about using data to paint a more complete picture of someone's performance, not just boiling it down to a single number. But wouldn't this require a pretty major overhaul of the current evaluation system?
Absolutely, it would. They're suggesting developing a standardized scorecard, one that calculates evaluations objectively based on predetermined metrics, so it takes the guesswork out of it. Everyone's assessed on the same criteria.
That's an interesting approach. It sounds like they're aiming for more transparency and objectivity.
Exactly. And to incentivize people, they also plan to publicly recognize top performers and share best practices, encourage everyone to learn from each other.
So it's a combination of data-driven insights, clear expectations, and then recognition for those who excel. What else contributes to this push for quality and efficiency?
Well, they also want to strengthen judicial education. The SPJI recognizes that judges and court personnel need, ongoing training to keep their skills sharp and adapt to the changing legal landscape. But they're not just talking about traditional lectures and theory. They're proposing a shift to what they call outcome-based education.
Outcome-based education. What does that look like in the context of judicial training?
It's about focusing on practical application rather than just theoretical knowledge. So, for example, let's say a judge is learning about a new law. Instead of just reading about it in a book, they would, participate in simulations, case studies, learn how to apply that law in real-world scenarios.
That makes a lot of sense. It bridges the gap between theory and practice, right? Ensures that judges are actually equipped to handle those really complex cases we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And they want to tailor the training to different experience levels. So, a seasoned judge would have a different curriculum than someone who's brand new to the judiciary.
It sounds like they're trying to make it as comprehensive and personalized as possible.
Yeah.
But how do they plan to actually measure the effectiveness of all this training?
They propose it's a 3-tiered assessment system. It evaluates the training program itself, but then also its impact on individual performance and and on the overall efficiency of the court system.
So it's not just about checking a box saying, okay, the training's done. It's about making sure that the training actually translates into like tangible improvements.
Yes, exactly. Accountability and continuous improvement. That's the idea. And to formalize this commitment to education, they also propose a degree and certificate granting program through the Philippine Judicial Academy.
So judges and court personnel could actually earn formal qualifications.
That's right. It gives them a chance to, really deepen their expertise, specialize in certain areas of law. It kind of raises the bar for professionalism in the judiciary.
That's impressive. It's clear they're really committed to ongoing education and professional development. It seems like they're trying to cultivate a culture of excellence.
Absolutely. And their vision actually extends beyond the courts themselves. The SPJI also includes plans to improve the legal profession as a whole. They're looking at reforming the bar exam, for example.
Oh, interesting. What kind of changes are they thinking about for legal education and the bar exam?
A lot of it revolves around automation.
Mm-hmm.
They want to automate the bar examination and all its related processes. So registration, certification, the whole thing.
Wow, so no more handwritten exams, no more mountains of paperwork.
Exactly. Streamline the process, make it less prone to errors, maybe even speed up the results.
It seems like technology is really at the heart of their reform agenda. What about legal education itself? Are there any changes planned for law schools?
They want law schools to really emphasize practical skills training and ethical responsibility. So it's not just about knowing the law, but also about knowing how to apply it effectively and ethically.
That's crucial, right? That ethical foundation is so important for maintaining public trust. How do they plan to promote this ethical conduct?
They're launching something called the Campaign for Ethical Responsibility. It's targeted at both judges and lawyers. The idea is to, raise awareness, promote best practices, really try to cultivate a culture of integrity in the legal system.
It's about setting clear expectations and promoting accountability. What about when ethical violations do occur? How does the SPJI address that?
Well, they want to strengthen the Judicial Integrity Board. That's the body that handles complaints against judicial officers. They want to make the complaint process more transparent, more efficient. So, any allegations of misconduct are investigated thoroughly and fairly.
It sounds like they're really trying to build a system that holds everyone accountable, from the newest court clerk to the most senior judge.
Exactly. And to ensure the safety of the courts themselves, they plan to make the Judiciary Marshal's Office operational.
The Marshal's Office, this is the first time we're hearing about them. What is their role?
The marshals are basically responsible for security for everyone in the courts, including judges, personnel, visitors. They make sure everything runs smoothly, no disruptions.
So kind of like the guardians of the courtroom, keeping everyone safe.
Yeah, you could say that. And to make sure they're well equipped for this, the SPJI proposes a dedicated academy, the Judicial Marshal Academy, for specialized training.
It makes sense. Security is a really important consideration, especially when you're dealing with such sensitive cases.
Definitely. It's about creating an environment where justice can be served without, fear or intimidation.
We've covered so much ground. From the support for court personnel to these bigger changes to the legal profession, it's clear that the SPJI is aiming for a really comprehensive transformation of the justice system.
It is. It's really fascinating to see how they're tying everything together. Well-being, performance management, technology, all of it.
Yeah, but ultimately it all comes down to what this means for the everyday person interacting with the justice system, right?
You got it. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about that. How these changes might impact the average person, the lawyer arguing a case, the individual seeking justice.
So we've really gone deep into the SPJI, haven't we? The plans, the technology, the focus on the people involved.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to this. What does it all mean for the everyday Filipino seeking justice?
Yeah, that's the core of it all, right? I mean, it's great to have all these ambitious plans and all this technology, but it has to translate into real benefits for the people the justice system is supposed to serve.
Exactly. The SPJI talks a lot about access to justice for all, but how do we ensure that that's not just, an empty promise? Especially with this increased reliance on technology, are we inadvertently creating a system that might leave some people behind?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, just implementing technology without really thinking about digital equity, well, it could actually widen the gap between those who have access and those who don't.
Exactly. What happens if, let's say, all court filings have to be done online, but a big chunk of the population doesn't have reliable internet access, or maybe they just aren't comfortable using computers.
Right, you'd essentially be creating a two-tiered system. The people with resources and digital literacy would benefit, and everyone else would be left behind.
And that goes against everything the SBJI is supposed to stand for.
Absolutely. And this isn't just a hypothetical problem. The digital divide is a very real issue in the Philippines, especially in rural areas, underserved communities. If the SPJI is serious about equitable access, they have to address this head on.
So what are some potential solutions? How do you bridge that digital divide, ensure that everyone benefits from these technological advancements?
Well, it's going to take a multi-pronged approach, that's for sure. First, there needs to be a huge investment in digital infrastructure, especially in those underserved areas we talked about. Expanding internet access, making sure people have affordable devices, and digital literacy programs, teaching people the skills they need to navigate this digital world.
It's about creating that foundation, right?
Yeah.
So everyone has the tools and the knowledge to participate.
Right, but it's not just about the hardware and infrastructure. The systems themselves, the platforms they're developing, they have to be designed with accessibility in mind. So they need intuitive interfaces, multilingual support, and maybe even alternative ways to access those services for people who aren't comfortable with computers.
It's about meeting people where they are, understanding their needs, and providing the support to make sure they can actually use these systems.
Exactly. If you don't do that, it's like building a high-speed train but leaving half the population at the station.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it's more than just usability. The information that's available on these platforms, the services that are provided, they need to be culturally relevant.
Yeah.
They need to be sensitive to the needs of diverse Filipino communities.
Yeah, you can't just assume that everyone's going to understand the same language, relate to the same content. If you don't take that into account, the technology will only reinforce existing inequalities.
It's not just about breaking the digital divide, it's about bridging those cultural and linguistic divides as well.
Yeah.
Making sure that everyone, regardless of their background, feels seen and heard by the justice system.
Exactly. It's about creating a system that truly serves everyone fairly.
It's definitely a big task, but it's an essential one. As the SPJI is implemented, this question of digital equity has to be front and center. It's not just a technology issue, it's a social justice issue.
Couldn't agree more. And it's not something the judiciary can do alone. It's going to require collaboration. The government, civil society organizations, tech companies, communities themselves.
It's a collective effort, everyone working together to make sure that technology is a tool for empowerment, not for exclusion.
Right.
Well, this has been quite a deep dive. We've explored the SPJI's vision for the future, the potential benefits, the challenges, the questions that still need to be addressed.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. It really is. It's like a roadmap,
Yeah.
for a more efficient, more transparent, and hopefully a more equitable justice system.
It's definitely ambitious,
Yeah.
but it's also, I think, really inspiring to see the Philippine judiciary, really trying to make these meaningful changes.
Definitely.
And of course, the real test is going to be the implementation, how all of this actually plays out in practice.
That's the next chapter.
And we'll be here to follow that story, analyze what happens, and keep you informed every step of the way. But for now, we'll leave you with this. As the Philippine judiciary embraces technology, as they strive for a more efficient system, how do we ensure that the pursuit of speed and efficiency doesn't overshadow those core values of fairness, equity, and access to justice for all?
That's a really important question. It's a reminder that progress shouldn't come at the expense of the people who need justice the most.
It's been a pleasure, as always. Until next time.